Shalum, Shalum and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening nation. But before I get into this segment of the series entitled The Final Exodus Countdown 2023, let me say this. The views expressed in these messages do not necessarily reflect the views of the owners, managers, shareholders, and or sponsors of this media platform. With that said, let's get into it. This is the fifth component of the W.O.W sequence. And this would probably be the last of the W.O.W sequence in this final Exodus. If you're tuning in for the first time, my brothers and sisters, as I stated, my name is Symmanayah, and I present words and messages that I'm compelled to present for the building up of a set-apart nation. Unity will come. I'm merely, if you're one who's drawn by the Almighty Creator, He who is the beginning and the end, the Aleph and the Tah, Yahuah, to Yahusha, meaning that Yahuah, who is spirit everywhere at all times, draws you to His word manifest before us. And what described that period of time where it began until infinity, Yahusha represents the embodiment of His plan for our restoration with He who is spirit everywhere at all times. Yahusha represents the virgin birth, the word manifest before us, the sacrifice, the resurrection. With that said, O Yashar'al, let's get into this segment. As I stated before, I used the acronym W.O.W, but the definition of each W.O.W sequence is different. For this fifth sequence, I want to bring your attention to wars, orientation, and winning. Wars, orientation, and winning. Make no mistake, Yashar'al, end times are here. The rhetoric of those outside of set apartness will have its place, and it has its its place. The propaganda machine is loud. We know governments aren't going to say that this is the fulfillment of end time prophecies. So let us bring our focus to the duties, the tasks at hand regarding the set apart children of Yahuah, consisting of both Hebrews or Abraham, as well as Gentiles or Goyim. Goyim just mean other nations. Gentiles just mean other nations, who together are made one by Yahusha Mashiach, by the word of Yahuah, according to His plan. There will be 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al as defined in Revelation 7th chapter. Make no mistake. But there will also be a great multitude, which is also mentioned in that 7th chapter, which no man can number, consisting of Hebrews and other nations or Gentiles, who are made one, who are drawn by the Almighty Father to Yahusha Mashiach. Make no mistake, the final Exodus will be a great multitude. You see, but it would also be a remnant. And let me just make it clear, because many people say, well, how can it be a remnant in a great multitude? I say to you, if you compare the number, the great multitude, tens of millions of people, to the total population, approximately well over 7.2 billion people, that is a remnant, but it's also a great multitude. As I get into this segment, come with me, my brothers and sisters, for I want to state the following. One day, O Yashar'al, we will witness the following come to reality before us. Let me read this, O Yashar'al. Amos 11, 8, 11, and 12. Amos chapter 8, 11, and 12. See, days are coming, declares the Master Yahuah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger for bread, nor a thirst for water, but for the hearing of the words of Yahuah. And they shall wander from sea to sea and from north to east, and they shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuah, but they shall not find it. My brothers and sisters, though this is literally speaking of a time when the sun darkens at noon, if you read earlier in the chapter, that's the literal. The spiritual matters are connected. For there are times where people are going from sea to sea, looking in different lands for artifacts, looking for the word of Yahuah. Look at how many brothers and sisters are grabbing so many different books, saying this book said this and this book said that. There is less emphasis on discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah, sending Yahusha's name. There's less emphasis on that and more emphasis on finding books, finding his word, finding the text. And we see man moving sea to sea, land to land. Notwithstanding that wickedness is old and have existed for many years. My brothers and sisters, as end times ramp up, as uncertainty ramp up, there's no doubt in my mind that there's a struggle. There are wars, there are battles, intensifying, trying to establish positions. Time and placement will be a critical factor in the gathering of Yashar'al. My brothers and sisters, we can agree that this is a spiritual battle. We can agree that spiritual warfare exists. We can agree that there are wars. We may even recognize the battles before us. But one thing I see, I'm compelled to believe, is there's not much emphasis on discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha. The Spirit of Yahuah sent in Yahusha's name, as stated in John 14:26. There's not emphasis on how do we examine, how do we vet, how do we come to identify the core of set apartness as it relates to the plan of the Almighty Father. You see, we're battling when the day begins and ends. We're battling with how to guard Shabbat. We're battling on the definition and or purposes of the major feast times. We're battling on how to dress, how to engage one another in fellowship. Though we lack these things, the promises of the Almighty Father consist of three major things: discipline, vengeance, and wrath. Look around, O Yashar'al. The pandemic is proven to be an end-time prophecy event. Famine and pestilence is ramping up, though the media may make attempts to hide it at its magnitude. For you, O Yashar'al, for you who will be obedient during these end times, for you who will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, for you who will be martyrs for Yahusha's name, for those who will come to be known as the children of obedience, we must recognize that there are steps to represent the wheels of Ezekiel. There are steps that represents Yashar'al coming together, smaller groups coming to larger groups, to even larger groups, till we complete that final exodus. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, what tools, what resources, what methods have proven to be set apart to be used in these wars? It is time, O Yashar'al, that we recognize what is required. Let me read this as I continue with war's orientation and winning. Identify and understand your armor. This is important, O Yashar'al. Come with me to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 13 to 18. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 13 through 18. My brothers and sisters, we're in a battle. Do you not think that we're required to have some type of armor? Do you believe that the Almighty Father provides us with the armor that is necessary to successfully and victoriously win? Do we not trust the words from the Almighty Father? Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, the realities of end times are before us. The times of recognizing the scriptures as they come alive before us is now. The time of knowing how to vet, how to examine, how to determine what is set apart is now. What say you, O Yashar'al? Are you satisfied with your leader, your moray, your teacher, your spiritual head? Are they really equipping you with the armor? Are they acknowledging the armor of Yahuah? Do they understand how to encourage others of utilizing and putting on the armor of Yahuah? Do you believe that you should continue on with someone who is not preparing you on how to be strong during times of their demise or times of their absence? Or do you think it's wise to continue on with someone who speaks more highly of themselves than of Yahusha, that lift themselves up? Yashar'al, Yashar'al. Let's read it. Because of this, and when I'm saying read it, it's Ephesians 6, 13 through 18. Because of this, take up the complete armor of the Almighty One, so that you have power to withstand the wicked day, withstand in the wicked day, and having done all to stand. Stand, then having girded your waist with truth. So many people use the word truth, but not everything that is behind the word is true. They believe by saying that they're for the truth, that means it's so. That, ask questions and more questions and even more questions. Seek the Spirit of Yahusha to teach you, to make known, to uncover, to make clear. It goes on to say, having put on the breastplate of righteousness. Standing, representing righteousness, my brothers and sisters. How can you represent righteousness without understanding what is true? Having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. How can you take a journey without your feet being fitted with the right instructions that will take you in the right direction? Are you not aware of Proverbs 4, 23 through 27 that speaks about focus in establishing your feet? Proverbs 4th chapter, verse 23 through 27. I encourage you to visit it. It goes on to say, above all, having taken up the shield of belief, with which you shall have power to quench all the burning arrows of the wicked one. Seek out the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, and you will see they mention about guarding Shabbat, guarding our way of life, guarding the teachings of Yahuah. To guard them is to be equipped with the elements that can be described as a shield of belief. Things that we believe are set apart and true. Things that bring about righteousness. And that shield is we will not waver nor release control to someone who is not of the set apart family. It said, take also the helmet of deliverance and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahuah, the word of the Almighty One. The helmet, my brothers and sisters, what covers our head? Who covers our head? The helmet of deliverance lets us know that the thought of our spirit, the mind of the Spirit, is guided and strengthened by the word of Yahuah, the spirit of his word, the sword of his spirit, which is from the Almighty One, Yahuah. Praying at all times with all prayer and supplication in the spirit, watching in all perseverance and supplication for all set apart ones. Let us know the armor and its purpose, O Yashar'al. My brothers and sisters, have you ever taken a job? Have you ever been employed by someone? Or if you're self-employed, have you ever had a situation where your client or your customer speaks of what their expectations are if they were to continue to support you? Wow, wars, orientation, winnings. There's no doubt we're in the battle. Look around, from politics to climate change and global warming. Look around at conditions that exist among Yashar'al, we who are scattered. You see, when we look around and focus on the set-apart family of Yashar'al, we see so many tribes, camps, and communities that miss the mark when it comes to orientation. I asked the question, have you ever had a job or been self-employed and got what your clients expected of you? Coming back to that question, I want to say this. It is my belief that in any job or business, orientation plays a vital part. It explains the rules of engagement. It explains the expectations, what is expected. It helps shape what is necessary for the continuance of a matter. And I submit to you, though we agree about the wars and the battles, though we see the conflict between set-apart children of Yahuah and those who are outside of that wheel, outside of that court of set-apartness, though we see the struggles, it's time to remember where we've fallen. It's time to evaluate the orientation process. If you are new to this walk, seek to discern what is the orientation process. If you have been in this walk, ask yourself, did you go through orientation? Did you go through the explanation of what is expected? Did you go through the things that help you to navigate through this walk? You see, some of you may disagree. I've used the 7 major feast times as identifying it as a purpose, as a key, as keys to discerning between right or wrong, as keys into organizing our walk such that we do not be fooled. Case in point, I talk about how Passover is the instruction of life. How the Feast of Unleavened Bread means it's a time to focus on the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha and not the influence of man. How first fruits, some will receive, acknowledge, and respond quicker than others. How the Feast of Harvest, more and more people are coming into the truth and understanding what is indeed right and set apart. How in that excitement, we proclaim the judgment and deliverance from the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. And in that proclamation, we make a joyful noise. Thus the Feast of Trumpets, a time of making a joyful noise before the world. And in that excitement, we dance, we sing, we shout, we proclaim deliverance and his judgment. But let me say this, O Yashar'al, we stumble and fall. Anytime we get too excited, too overjoyed, we are prone to stumble and fall. Thus the Feast of Atonement, where the blood of Yahusha washes and cleanses us and make our robes white and renews us. Thus we have the Feast of Atonement, knowing that once he covers the mistake, the stumbling, we don't stop there. We rise up in the spirit of set-apartness, in the spirit of correctness. Yes, my brothers and sisters, we must understand that in orientation, expectations, rules of engagements should be evaluated and acknowledged. Who has taken on a job or started a business and disregard the orientation process? Disregard the expectation process? If so, it's time to go back and remember where it began. Remember where the job, the task at hand began. Yashar'al. Be prayerful, my brothers and sisters. The details and processes of orientation are for a purpose. Though they may not be called an orientation, look at the seed in the definition of orientation. To present expectations, to present rules governing, to present what must be done and what is expected of you, me, in a set-apart nation. The details and processes of orientation are important. And as this final exodus takes shape, as unity takes shape, we will learn what is expected. We will discern how we must respond. Come with me for a moment, my brothers and sisters. Come with me as I read Chronicles 7th chapter, verse 12 through 14. Chronicles chapter 7, verse 12 through 14. It reads, And Yahuah appeared to Shalum, or Solomon, by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place for myself as a house of slaughtering. If I shut up the heavens and there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and my people upon whom my name is called shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, then I shall hear from the heavens and forgive their sins and heal their land. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. So many people take this scripture and think it means wherever Yashar'al is, he will heal that land. It's saying their land, the land that he gave Yashar'al, is the promised land. If we humble ourselves and obey him, we will find ourselves being directed and ultimately being guided to the promised land. Are we not aware that the final exodus is described being gathered back to the promised land? So it will take us humbling and remembering him. It will take things and conditions that will cause us to move and go to the land which he has given us. It's not talking about wherever we are, he's going to heal that land. It's referring to the land he has given us. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, it's time to recognize the life in the passages in the scriptures that we read and understand what is expected. Be mindful. Know the difference between milk and meat, oh Yashar'al. Lest we find ourselves in a situation where we are contributors to unfruitful noise, where we are contributing to uncertainty. Let us be mindful of the difference of milk and meat and how we are to graduate from milk to meat and how we are to guard the teachings of the Almighty Father, how we are to identify his true leaders, his chosen ones, how we are to recognize how we should subject ourselves one to another as the Spirit of Yahusha works in us, through us, one towards another. Know the difference between milk and meat, for there is much substance in meat that is beyond milk. Let me read the following, O Yashar'al, for I think it is pertinent to what I am saying. Hebrews 5th chapter, verse 12 to 14. For it reads, For indeed, although by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again in the first elements of the word of the Almighty One. Notice it say again the first elements of the words from the Almighty One. Could the first elements be orientation into the set-apart walk? It says, and you have become such as need milk and not solid food. See, he's talking about because they have returned, or should I say not have, need to return to the first elements. Orientation in this walk. He goes on to say, such as need of milk and not solid food. For everyone partaking in milk is inexperienced in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. So many of us have jumped into the text and accelerated our walk with echoing sentiments of the text, notwithstanding the living spirit of Yahuah working in us, notwithstanding the scriptures coming alive. We speak of scriptures, we echo scriptures, we meet in fellowships or Shabbat gatherings, only to echo what's in the book, notwithstanding the life that is behind the book. You see, there are so many interpretations of scriptures, my brothers and sisters. We must lean on the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah, send in Yahusha's name to move beyond milk. For many, we will witness in the coming days a return to the first elements, a return to milk, a return to orientation to determine what is expected, what details and processes are necessary to complete the job at hand. He goes on to say, but solid food is for the mature whose senses have been trained by practice to discern both good and evil. Senses, my brothers and sisters. Orientation. The need to reinforce directions is now. The time is now, my brothers and sisters. If you're curious to what to do, where to go, who to speak to, who to lead or who to serve, when to yield and when to speak up, that time is now. Go back to the orientation. Go back to the day you came into this walk and begin asking yourself, what is expected? What are the rules of engagement? How do I step into maturity in the correct way? How do I acknowledge and receive what is expected? Ask questions, my brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about foolish questions, but ask sincere questions. These words are to you, O set-apart nation. It is a continuous duty to be as iron sharpened iron, to grow from milk to meat, to be mature in set-apartness, an on-growing process. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. As we learn and receive and embrace the orientation process, as we begin to identify the tasks necessary for these final days, it is important to know the power of winning. Those who will win are those who will walk in obedience to the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. I could have used the word overcome, for winning and overcome are synonymous. To win, to overcome is important, O Yashar'al. Trust and believe that the messages from the Almighty Father will bring about success, victory. Trust and know this, in spite of all that is going on, there will be forced movement, there will be forced migration for the purposes of bringing the wheels of Ezekiel together to the promised land, for the purposes of ratifying, reinforcing, bringing to realization all that has been prophesied. The power of winning is the power of Yahuah accomplishing all that he has promised. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. To overcome is to recognize winning. Thus, this segment, wars, orientation, winning. So in the battle, in the war, let us acknowledge the orientation process. Let us rise up and assume the task and the position that is given us. And let us know that we will overcome. There will be winnings. There will be benefits to obeying the Almighty Father. Let me read the following, O Yashar'al, for it is important to let these marinate and stir within you as we walk in these final days, as we begin to navigate through the uncertainty, as we begin to move and meet others of like mind. Romans 12:21 says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You see, my brothers and sisters, so many people are talking about what they are doing, what the wicked ones are doing, what the nations are doing, what people or other people are doing outside of set apartness. And they're being overtaken by echoing the sentiments of wickedness. It is time now to focus on what we're supposed to be doing and direct our time and attention and focus on what is indeed good and set apart. Consider 2 Corinthians 2:14. Here it says, but thanks to the Almighty One who always leads us on to overcome in Messiah and manifest through us the fragrance of his knowledge in every place. Overcome, winning in Yahusha's name is important. It brings about the mindset to look forward. It fuels our expectations to see the evidence of overcoming evil with good by walking in obedience to the Almighty Father. 1 John 4:4 says, you are of the Almighty One, little children, and have overcome them, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Many have a hard time understanding that the spirit within these earthen vessels, this tabernacle, our spirit, is joined with the spirit of Yahuah through Yahusha Mashiach. And here we have the power to overcome, to win, winning. Let us have those expectations, but let us also be able to identify when we've overcome, as we overcome. Let us also understand that we are able to overcome, my brothers and sisters, by walking in obedience, by watching, witnessing, discerning the life and the spirit of Yahuah working in us, through us, one towards another, and through his scriptures that are made alive in spite of man's tampering. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, there will be discipline. And so many fail to explain or describe what that discipline is. So many fail to identify how to press through the discipline and rise up perfected as refined gold by the power and might, by the knowledge, by the guidance, by the teachings, by the discipline of the Almighty Father. Let me read this here. Revelation 3:19 says, as many as I love, I reprove and discipline. So be ardent and repent. Let us understand the importance of being washed by the blood of the Lamb, my brothers and sisters. What it means to have our robes made white as snow, as mentioned in Revelation 7, I believe it's the 14th verse. Let me make sure I'm quoting that. Or should I say, paraphrasing that correctly. Yes, 7:14. Let us know, my brothers and sisters, out of discipline comes obedience for many. And those who would be obstacles, stubborn, those who would prefer to protect their egos, prepare to say goodbye to them. For we will either depart from them, purge them from our midst, or watch the hand of the Almighty Father take them to their grave. Some. Discipline will come, O Yashar'al. The final exodus will be fulfilled. In Hebrews 12:11, it says, it reminds us, it instructs us that no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but grievous, but afterward it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. It could say to those who become obedient and yield as a result of the discipline. Are you prepared to let go of the things that you are uncertain of? Are you prepared to release the shackles of ego and overconfidence and overanxious? Are you prepared to fill your time and place with actions and words of set apartness that reflect an obedient servant to the Almighty Father. Consider Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. For it reads, My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuah, and do not loathe his reproof. For whom Yahuah loves, he reproves, as a father the son whom he delights in. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. Winning requires obedience and sacrifice. And obedience is better than sacrifice, as it is written. But obedience comes by discerning his voice. I have heard many teach and say, my Ruach, or Yahuah's Ruach, which means spirit. But how many teachers, mores, community heads, how many of those of spiritual influence have encouraged you and say, I discern the voice of Yahusha working in you, through you. I bear witness that the presence of the spirit of Yahusha is in you, is in us, it's working among us. How many of you have heard those teachings? Again, are you satisfied? Do you know that your more, your community head, your pastor, your spiritual influencer, consumes a large percentage, a large chunk of your learning, a large chunk of your time? And if they're not preparing you and equipping you with what is necessary to reflect having the whole armor of Yahuah, having all that is required in these wars, in this war, is that really who you want to remain with? Have you considered that maybe you're spending the time that you have for set apartness, whether it be a fellowship, a community gathering, a Shabbat gathering? Are you considering that the time you're spending there, if they're not equipping you to walk strong and be a contributor to Yashar'al as a whole, that time you're spending there could be time where you are visited by the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha, or visited by the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha working through another to give you things that you need, things that reflect the fruit of the orientation process, things that reflect what is necessary in these wars to overcome, to win. Yashar'al, or Yashar'al. One day, a time will come that is reflective of what I'm about to read, that I read at the beginning. And time and placement will be a critical factor. It's time to choose wisely, O Yashar'al. Consider Amos 8, 11, and 12. I read it at the beginning, and I want to come to a conclusion by reading it again. Amos 8, 11, and 12. It states, See, the days are coming, declares Master Yahuah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger for bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yahuah. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north to east, and they shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuah, but they shall not find it. Time and placement, my brothers and sisters. Though Yahuah is everywhere, at all times, time and placement. Let me go back for a minute. Time and placement will be a critical factor. And though Yahuah is everywhere at all times, O Yashar'al, as he tells you to move, as he tells you to engage brothers and sisters for the fitting together of a set-apart nation to fulfill what is written, as he directs, O Yashar'al, there will be times he will bring about movement. And if you want to stay where you are, you may miss the instructions in the words that he has for you. You see, movement is coming. How many people have to die in a certain geographic area before you begin to see mass movement? How large and intense must the pandemic get before Yashar'al realized we must gather together, O set apart nation, who is to fulfill what is written and demonstrate to the world how the hand of the Almighty Father is upon his children. How much destruction must come before we begin to seek to discern what the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah is saying. I have stated on many occasions that I believe I am a contributor for the gathering of Yashar'al on the Western Hemisphere, and that gathering will take place in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia, for those on the Western Hemisphere. What do you think it will take for movement to come? I have mentioned that the final exodus will be mostly children. For I have seen as destruction comes, as widespread death comes, as earthquakes and volcanoes erupt, as tsunami comes. I have witnessed situations where transportations was full and there wasn't much room for an entire family. And I have witnessed some parents and guardians presenting their child, saying, take my son, take my daughter, take my grandchild. For I have lived a fruitful life. Or just out of love and sacrifice, they present their children. You see, it will be a lot of individuals when you see situations where capacity is reached in a car, a bus, a truck, a train, a plane, or the inability to cross a river before destruction comes. I've seen situations where parents, guardians have presented their children or children they were charged to oversee. I've seen the wheels of Ezekiel, where as Yashar'al come together, the wheels will move in different directions with the ultimate goal to make it to the promised land. The wheels will come together, small wheels to bigger wheels to bigger wheels, till we begin to see a final exodus take shape. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, discern the tasks that are before you. I invite questions, comments, and discussion on these matters. Let us be as iron sharpen iron. Let us vet and know how to examine a matter. For it is written that judgment begins at the house of Yahuah first. Prepare to witness as the battle of mores, community heads, teachers, deacons, and spiritual influence, as that battle enlarges, O Yashar'al, out of the struggles, out of the noise, out of the uncertainty, the true chosen leaders, the true anointed ones of Yahuah will rise up victorious among the set-apart children. Those who are disobedient will be left behind or taken to their grave. End times are real, O Yashar'al, and it's time to attach yourself to those who recognize the realities of what must and will come to be. On that note, O Yashar'al, wow! Number 5, wars, orientation, winning, wars, orientation, winning. I could say battles, instructions for expectations, for completing a job or task, or overcoming. Keep these matters in mind, O Yashar'al. Stay tuned. There's much more to come. There's so much work to be done. To provide support, consider visiting YahusWatchman.net. Consider reaching out. Consider emailing. Get involved, O Yashar'al. My prayers are that you are in good health and of sound mind. My prayers are that each of you are growing in discernment and strength and prepared to make the move. Yes, force movement is coming for the stiff-necked. For the obedient, the stirring will come. It will burn inside like a consuming fire to get you to move, to get you to begin making tracks in the direction that the Almighty Father would have you go. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, choose wisely, Choose wisely of what you would take to the grave. Choose wisely the steps that you can echo before the throne of judgment. Choose wisely of those whom really are anointed by the Almighty Father to love you as a brother, as a sister, with the love given to us to love one another by the power and might of the Almighty Father. And remember, love is not some passive thing. Love is strong. Love is embracing. Love is doing what is set apart. Love is doing what is instructed of us from the Almighty Father. For we can know no love without the Almighty Father. We cannot come close to the Almighty Father except through his word, Yahusha Mashiach. On that note, O Yashar'al, I say again, stay tuned. There's much more to come. The realities of this end time Exodus is magnifying. On that note, my brother, my sister, I say to you, wars, orientation, winning. What does this mean to you? Here, O Yashar'al, the time is now to discern and act. End time promises will be fulfilled. Shalum.